Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to each one of you to this session of Tuesday gatherings, where we are going to carry forward the exploration of the topic, what is spirituality, in the context of the mind. So, as is our tradition, let us pray to the Guru principle for grace. So, just let your awareness go to your heart. Be more sensitive about how you are breathing and use the vehicle of the breath to go within, to that space where the body and mind both start getting centered, and it becomes possible to connect to the higher energies of the Guru principle. Just breathe in deep and recite Om. We will do this 3 times. Let us offer our prayers to the Guru principle. Om Akhand Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Deva Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurave Namaha. We bow down to all the masters through all levels of existence and through all times. May their grace and support be with us in this session. So let the inner state remain a tranquil state where it becomes possible for each one of us to connect whatever goes on in this session. In the last session, we examined certain very practical aspects of spirituality. And the simple mantra was, don't complain. Be in a state of flow, don't ask for anything, never say no to anything. Today we are going to be examining the role of the mind. In the Bhagavad Gita, it has been said, Man ev hi manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. The mind alone is the cause for our bondage and also for our liberation. So a mind that is entangled in the world is going to bring us down. It will create bondage, and a mind that has been purified, that has been raised to higher levels, that can give us liberation. So it is very important for us to see how we can deal with the mind and what is the role of the mind in all this. As far as spirituality is concerned, the day we start working on the mind, that is the day we are really entering spirituality. So this is a simple test. We all work with the mind all the time. But are we working on the mind? And if the work starts on the mind, then that means one has found entry into the spiritual domain. And something really wonderful is going to happen. So if we examine our body, life, we go to such great lengths to take care of the bodies. We do exercise, we eat all kinds of good food. We eat organic, we avoid inorganic food because inorganic would mean eating some stones. And we don't want to consume bricks or stones. So we go out for a walk. But we examine the walk. What is happening? We go out only to come back. It is not that we go out for the walk and we remain out. We come back. People do work out in the gyms, they lift weights and only to put them down, back in place. So why do we do all this? We do it because we want to take care of the body. We perform actions with the body because body must have some energy, it must have some strength to go about. So we take care of the body. But what is the real nature of performing action with the body? Because it is going to take care of our livelihood. It is going to sustain us in this world. I worked in Mumbai for many years in a government department. People used to come to office. They had to come after traveling or spending a lot of time traveling in trains. So whenever they would come, the first thing was to mark the attendance and go to the office canteen because they have started so early that they have missed the breakfast. This is the world. This is how we take care of the bodies. So if people are more, discreet or having some higher wisdom, then they will choose what to eat, what not to eat. But everything that we do is action on the body. And it is to make sure that the body is in order and it is functioning. But if we are caught up in the actions of the body alone, that will make sure that we are entangled only in the worldly affairs. And as long as we are entangled in the world, it is guaranteed that we are not going to be happy. We are not going to experience bliss that we all crave for. So why? Because there is an identification with the body. A master had visited a seashore. He had a number of kids with him, and they all took a boat ride. The sea was a little rough. So as long as they were in the boat was shaking. It was moving from side to side. It was moving forward, but it was also shaking, moving from side to side. And everybody sitting in the boat was also moving, like they were sitting in a swing. But when they came back to the shore, the master decided to play a prank. So all these kids came down, he also came down, and he was still moving side to side. So the kids came to him and said, Swamiji, why are you doing this? And he said, look, in the sea, the boat is still moving from side to side. So I am also moving because I have got identified with the boat. So the whole purpose is to teach people that it is whatever you identify with, the issues of that particular object will remain with you. You will be entangled. And it is because of our excessive identification with the body that the life passes by in a blur. Now, throughout the day or whenever we are, as long as we are awake, we keep on having some experience or the other. So it is really required to be examined where are those experiences arising. So those experiences are not arising in the mind, in the body, they are arising in the mind. A person goes for surgery, is given anesthesia, the doctor is going to cut open the body parts, do something. He doesn't feel a thing. And sometimes when strong local anesthesia is given, you can just sit there and see the doctor performing the surgery and you don't feel any pain. But after some time, when the effect of the anesthesia wears off, the pain returns. Why? Because that part of the body was put in a kind of a state of meditation where nothing was being felt. It was completely removed. The kind of mind that it has, that was operating from there in that region, that was made numb. And because there was no identification with the body at that time, the mind was not feeling any pain. But after the effect of the anesthesia wore off, the mind started feeling pain. So experience is in the domain of the mind, not in the domain of the body. This is one important thing to be known. Because if we are caught up in the body, we will keep wandering on the outside. Many of us would be knowing about Charpat Panjarika Stotram, this wonderful poem written by Shankaracharya ji. And he talks about this wandering around. He says, Kurute Ganga Sagar Gamnam Vrata Paripalam Athva Palanam Athva Danam. He says, you have been to so many places. You have been to Ganga Sagar where the Ganga flows into the sea. You have observed many vows. You have given money in charity. And yet, these actions have not released you from the undulations of the mind. You are still caught up. In another stanza, he says, Agne Agre Vahani Prishthe Banu Ratrau Chibuk Samarpit Janu Karatal Bhikshah Tarutal Vasah Tadapi na Munchati Asha Pashah. There is a fire in the front, the sun is behind you, you are huddled with your chin resting on your knees at the night. One is begging for food. With his bare hands he eats. He lives under trees. And yet the noose of desire does not leave him. So all these actions which are being performed by the body cannot bring release. So when we look at life at the gross level, it is samsara, it is the world. And a sadhak is born when he starts looking at life at the subtle level and starts investigating what is going on in his own mind. That is why mind is of utmost importance. So what is looking into one's mind? It is simple. We are all having some experiences all the time. The question is, are we going to examine those experiences and learn from those experiences? Is there an attitude of being a student throughout life where one is ready to learn from life and enter the subtleties of the mind, enter into the subtleties of the mind? If we are prepared to learn, that is great. It is entering spirituality. If we are not prepared to learn, then we are like the birds or animals. I gave the example in the last session of the mirror. We look at the mirror, we see our image, we know that it is an image. But when a bird comes and looks into the mirror and sees another bird there, then the bird gets very excited because the bird thinks that there is somebody else. And she starts fighting with the bird in the mirror. So as long as we are not ready to learn from life, we are not ready to develop that subtle vision, we will remain caught up. Somebody passed away, he was in coma for some time. And the family said, oh, it was great release, he was in coma. Now look at it from the perspective of the person who was in coma. As long as one is coma, is there any pain? Is there any suffering? The whole world is disappeared. The experience of the body is not there. So there is no suffering for the person concerned, if we examine it very minutely. But suffering is there for those who are looking at him. So they have created suffering from themselves and said, oh, my relative, my dear one has suffered for so long. So it is the mind which is going to create all this. Somebody we knew passed away, had a daughter-in-law who never took care of the father-in-law, but after the father-in-law passed away, she was wailing the loudest. That maybe she was feeling the absence of the person, that there was nobody left whom she could ignore, or any longer, or she had, to overcome her sense of, guilt that I did not take care of him as long as he was there. So this is the mind. The mind is going to create situations and make you inhabit those situations. And that is how you react. So to experience that I am in the body, but I am not affected by what is happening here, one doesn't have to go into coma. We need to develop some powers of analysis. So we must analyze our sleep. Every day we are sleeping, and in sleep we don't identify with the body. When the deep sleep is there is no identification. No coming and going, no ambitions, nothing. And there is peace, joy. When we wake up, we feel, yes, we are rested. So the entire process of spirituality is not to work with the mind. As long as the mind is there and it is running, there is problem. But we work upon the mind. When we work with the mind, we are going to get trapped. But when we work upon the mind, then we are going to rise higher. So what is the way out? First thing to understand is that all the experiences of life happen only in the mind. Body is not experiencing anything. And when we shift our attention to this direction, to this understanding, then the very nature and content of our life begins to change. And it is not very difficult to understand. We all, those of us who have cars, some once in a while the car goes out of order, we take it to a garage, to a mechanic. Now the mechanic is wearing overalls and very easily he slides beneath the car onto the ground and he does the work. In the process, what has happened? All his clothes have been spoiled. There is dust, there is grease, this, many things, oils, everything is soiled completely. Now, for such a person who is wearing this kind of clothes, he finds it, he will not think twice before sitting anywhere, no matter how dirty the place is. But if he comes to your house and he wants to sit in your sofa, perhaps you will run and find a sheet which you can cover your sofa with, and then only you will make that person sit there. So, if the mind is clean, the example of the outer clothes, this is the example of the mind. If the mind is squeaky clean, then before we let the mind go and settle anywhere, suppose we are wearing very, very nice clothes, and then we go to this garage and we are offered a chair there, then we will think twice before sitting inside and we'll make sure that it is clean because our clothes will be spoiled. So when we clean up the mind, then we become very careful as to where we are going to allow our mind to go and sit. And a transformation begins to happen. But if the mind is not clean, then it will go anywhere. Because it is not bothered by the filth that it is accumulating. So this is something which is very important to know, that we have a mind, it is very precious, and we need to work upon the mind to harmonize it with something higher. And if we look at, Bhagavad Gita, in the 5th chapter, in the 15th chapter, in the 5th shlok, Lord Krishna gives a very simple prescription. He says, what is the nature of the mind? What should be there? So he says, Nihmana moha, jitasanga dosha, adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama, dvandair vimukta, sukha dukkha sangyaiha, gacchanti amudha, padam avyayam tat. Now it has a beautiful meaning, Nihmana moha, कि मान का मोह हो गया है, कि there is false prestige. We attach a lot of value to ourselves. This is false. Nihmana moha. That attachment has gone. The mind has to be like that. Jita sanga dosha. The illusion that the mind creates and the false association that the mind creates, that is taken care of. It is gone. Vinivritta kama. The mind is such that it is constantly focused on the eternal. The mind is such that it is done with the material lust. Vinivritta kama. Adhyatma nitya, that came first. So the mind is always focused on the eternal, trying to know what is the eternal truth. Dvandvair vimukta, it is free from duality. Sukha dukkha sangyai. What are the dualities? Pleasure and pain is the duality of life. We are oscillating between pleasure and pain. But a really great mind has found a sense of freedom from these dualities of pleasure and pain. Padam avyayam tat. And such a mind can know the Supreme Godhead or the Supreme Person. So it is so true that only an awakened mind can discover God. God is not hiding somewhere, God is very much within us. When we purify, then the beauty and glory of the divine begins to shine and we are able to perceive it. So let us go into this a little bit in detail, that Nihmana moha, ki man ka moh hai, that prestige is very important. Everybody is very conscious of his or her prestige. So what gives rise to this kind of prestige? The thoughts of, that these attachments, where they come from. So how do we measure ourselves? How do we evaluate ourselves? So that evaluation takes 3 elements: Desh, Kal, Vastu. Place, time, and object. So you look at our own body. If we look at our own bodies, body is the vastu, the object. But we have placed it in time. We say my date of birth is such and such. So a sense of time, age, all those things are being created. I say my weight is such. I am so tall. And this is my weight. So we are placing or creating a sense of desh, the place. So this is how, through this identification and by circumscribing the object by place, time, we create an experience. And that creates a sense of belonging, a sense of possessiveness, that is an assessment of ourselves, of who we think we are. So this is how the body is being circumscribed. It's just an example. Our date of birth, how we look, what is our religion. There's so many things we can go on defining. So by desh, kal, the vastu is being circumscribed. Now he says, nihmana moha, don't have attachment for this false prestige, false identification. So what is that? Nihman moha. It is true to know that I am this body. We have the body, we cannot deny. But what is not true is the thought that I am not other bodies. Because a purified mind knows that the same energy resides everywhere. So there is a definite identification, I am this body. I am my body. But the wrong part of the identification is that this body alone is myself. So we must understand how we can counter or how we can achieve, counter wrong understanding and achieve Nihaman Moha. And so how to get out of this identification? So in Gita, in one of the teachings, the Lord says, Atmaupyamena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna. Sukham va yadi dukham sa sukham va yadi va dukham sa yogi parmamata. So what he says, who is a perfect yogi? By comparison to his own self, he sees the true quality of all beings. So he recognizes that I am the self and everybody else is also a play of the self only. And recognizing this unity of being, the measurement of our own existence, all those measurements, they just begin to disappear, they fall away. And then one really finds out that I am my body, true. But I am not other bodies is not true. I am also other bodies. I can see myself or my presence in other bodies. So the kind of identification with this body in exclusion of everything else, that drops. So that is why, if you go to this beautiful book called Light on the Path, where the teachings of Theosophical Society are there is a rule 5. And the in the rule 5, the master says, kill out all sense of separateness. And why does he say that? This is here, that you drop your identifications. So he says that when you start feeling that you are no separate from the others in the world, then the mind is automatically getting purified. And then the master says that you and your master, you and your guru are not different from the evil man or the ignorant man. In this world, we always think of ourselves as better off, better intellectually, better in understanding, and we tend to look down upon others. We consider that they are not good enough, they don't understand, they are caught up in evil things, they are doing this, doing that. What the master is trying to tell in this particular sutra, which says kill out all sense of separateness, is simple, that you and your master are not different from the evil man or the ignorant man. The difference, if any, is of degrees. And he also goes on to say that the moment you think you are separate, you are creating karma, which will come back to you. And in some lifetime, whomsoever you are hating or whomsoever you are putting down, you might be born in that form, just to have an experience what it is like to be in this particular form, which you don't like today. So if you want to be free, just drop your judgment about others. And then he makes one very important statement. I'm not getting the exact words right now, but what he says is that keep away. Because it is appropriate to do that. So if you feel that there are some people who are having some vices, they are evil, keep away from them. But he also says, not that you shall be kept clean. You have come here in this world, if you have karma with them, you will have to deal with them, you'll have to go through, but always have this sense of feeling that I am a part of everything that is happening around me. And there is no duality. So this is what the Lord here in this particular has said, Nihaman Moha. Just drop your own individual sense of being. You are not separate. And then he says, Atma upyamena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham vayadi vadukham sa yogi paramo mata. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true quality of all beings in both their happiness and distress. So everybody is going through what they have to go through. But seeing the divine playing all those roles through them, that is the real understanding. Anything else is gymnastic. We lift weights only to put them down. We go out for the walk only to come back. But it is a choice that we all have. And there are so many paths for this. So the essence is dissolution of identification with the body. So one may follow Karma Yoga, one may follow Ashtanga Yoga, one may follow Upasana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, one may follow Jnana Yoga. But the purpose of all these things is to dissolve our identification with the body. Now, what is this Nihman Moha? You see the first line that appears in Bhagavad Gita. Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavah Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kim Kurvat Sanjay. कि जो mine and the Pandu's sons, they are in the battlefield. What is happening between them? Please tell me. Now this very thought that there is a battlefield, and in that battlefield, who is arrayed, whose armies are arrayed? My sons' armies and the armies of Pandu's sons. Now Dhritarashtra is asking this question. But even the Pandu's sons were only Kauravas. The father of Dhritarashtra and Pandu was the same. So because this thought was imposed that these are my sons and those are Pandu's sons, Mahabharata happened. If that understanding had been there, Mahabharata would not have happened. So we can take it in our own, a more mundane example. Okay, there's one family, Mishraji. That's a common surname. Now Mishraji has a brother, or he has two sons. Now after the father, the elder son is also called Mishraji only. And the younger son, he will also be called Mishraji. Is there any difference? The surname is going to be the same. But because there is an identification with a particular body, there may be problems in the family over division of property. So it's a very crude example, but it's a very valid example that we all can think how our own sense of mine and thine is creating duality in this world. And why we do not pay attention in this direction? Because we are caught up in the Dehatma Bhava. This body is what we consider to be us. And we to think that this alone is us. That is the problem. So what to do? How to take it forward? So again, in this in the Bhagavad Gita itself, the teaching is sukh dukkhe samay kritva. Don't treat pleasure and pain differently. Treat them as two sides of the same coin. Now if we look at it, something works for us. We succeed, we become very proud, it gives us pleasure for some time. But something which is a source of great pleasure today can become a source of great trouble tomorrow. Somebody finds a job, he's doing very well, he gets a good rating, he gets a promotion, but a few years later he gets a change in the boss. New boss does not like his face, and it becomes a source of great trouble. So it is like this, that when the pleasure happened, we normally own the pleasure. We say, oh, I got it, I did it, I deserved it. But when pain happens, we try to put the blame on the other person. My boss is bad. This community is useless. People in my family, they don't really appreciate who I am. Everybody wants their pound of flesh. So this has to go. And the whole process or the struggle, if any, is how to find that equality or sense of equality. So the simple trick here is that we must understand that the world is like this only, and it will go. In a forest, if the number of rats go up, become very high, then nature will make sure that snakes also proliferate. And when the snakes have had their fill and the rats have been reduced, then it will happen that the population of the snakes will also start reducing. So this is the nature of the world. It goes on. If you take the side of the rat, then you are in trouble. And if you take the side of the snake, then also you are in trouble. So to recognize that the nature of the world is such that ups and downs are going to happen, what we need is equanimity. That is very important. And how do we get it? Again, the Lord says, कि शत्रु मित्रे पुत्रे बंधौ मा कुरु यत्नम विग्रह संधौ. Don't make any friend, don't make any enemy, don't treat your son as your personal thing, possession. With your effort, try and detach yourself from everything. Because every soul that has come here in this world has his or her own sovereignty. That soul is going to go through that soul journey. It is our attachment or aversion to that particular soul in the current lifetime or in this body that is going to create difficulties. And sometimes, when we have great intensity of love or say attachment to a friend or family, when something goes wrong there, then it is all the more troublesome. It's very painful. So that is why the advice is that remain detached. Enemies, friends, sons, relatives, see yourself in everyone. Duality is wrong knowledge, and let the wrong knowledge be erased. कि शत्रौ मित्रे पुत्रे बंधौ मा कुरु यत्नं विग्रह संधौ सर्वस्मिन्नपि पश्यात्मानं. See yourself in each one of these. Sarvatrotsrij bhedagyanam. And just release all sense of duality. So this is a great way to cultivate a mind that is free from attachments and bondage. If we look at our own lives today, or maybe we always try and, blame somebody else for whatever happens. I was very lucky in service. I always got very good bosses who appreciated my independence and who always said good words about me. And that sort of emboldened me in becoming a very outspoken subordinate. Now, at some point of time in my life, I got a boss who had no self-confidence. And he did not like me one bit. 1.5 years of working under him, and I had almost prepared myself that I will put in my resignation from the job if I have to work with this person for a longer period of time. So why did it happen? Because I was too much caught up in my own sense of goodness. Oh, I am a good fellow. I have been liked by so many. People have spoken so well about me. This fellow does not appreciate. And it was very painful. Over a period of time, and even when I had got away from his clutches, I used to take, I used to give out some very juicy details about my boss. But over a period of time, through contemplation, I realized that maybe he was insecure. And what he did to me was an insecure person's response to a person who was more secure about what he was doing. And when I contemplated it this way, then that anger that I felt, it disappeared. And lo and behold, after many years, he just connected with me all by himself. So it is like this, that when we drop our sense of individuality and when we start seeing God operating in other people who may have been unkind or difficult, maybe, then we can see that the relationship is all automatically taken care of, and it becomes a harmonious relationship. So it was a great kind of teaching for me. But we should be, when it was happening to me, I was not that open, not that evolved. But over a period of time, this learning came. And that is where we missed the point. This particular boss, perhaps a great teacher I had, because he was only holding a mirror to my own ego, the ego of being good. The person who said, okay, I am so good, I must be treated well. So this is where sometimes we miss the point. There was this great saint in Pune, Joshi Maharaj, and he once told me कि हम तो अमृत पिलाने के लिए बैठे हैं, लोग आकर कहते हैं चाय पिला दो, तो हम चाय पिला देते हैं. It is a kind of situation where we have to be vigilant every moment and see what we are looking for. And the reasons for our annoyance or our grief, often or most of the time, they do not lie outside, they lie within ourselves. And all these things happen because we are constantly trying to change others instead of acting through discretion. And the mind is very clever. The mind is always going to, read something more into a particular situation. So somebody gave a very good example. He says, yes, there are boys standing outside, girls' colleges. The people who are not doing anything, they just sit there and watch the girls. Now one such boy, he must be watching so many girls, nothing was happening, but somehow his mind got fixated on one particular girl. Now he goes to a temple. And In the temple, he is not asking for a job. He is not asking that, he should be well settled in life. He's just thinking, and this girl appears and he tells the Lord, I want this girl. He's every day is going to the temple making so many prayers. No, not a single prayer is answered. But that day, there is not much crowd. He turns around and he sees this girl entering the temple. And then projection starts. This is an event. But the mind says, see, God has listened to your prayer. She must be the girl. And the drama of life or the entanglement in the world begins. So we have to be really careful and see how the mind is using its powers of projection, perception. Mind has power of perception and projection in such a way that we get more and more entangled into the world. So what is the way out? Just be in your own state. Be a mirror. The mirror is there. Whatever stands before the mirror, whatever is there before the mirror, that is going to be reflected. Now, if a very beautiful, a gorgeous woman comes and stands before the mirror is not going to ask her, oh, you are so beautiful, I really like you. Please hold on for a few more minutes. No. And if some of the oldies like us, they just go and stand, and the mirror is not going to say, oh, I have no time for you. Just move on. So how can we allow our mind to be the mirror? So that whatever comes up before it, it just watches for as long as it stays without putting any of its expectations, attachments or aversions or any of its judgment into that situation. What is the time? It's 1 hour.
7:30.
7:30. Okay. We'll take another 15 minutes or so. So again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks a question to the Lord. What is the nature of the sthiti pragya, the realized being? Sthiti pragya se ka bhasha? How does the person speak? Samadhisthasya keshava sthita dhi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajet kim. How does that conscious person who is established in transcendence, how does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? So what is his language is very important. Kim prabhashet. What is his language does not mean what kind of language he is speaking. It is how he is reacting. Reaction happens through nama and rupa. We see an image and some words start arising. So what are those words that arise when we are faced with a particular situation? So that is what the Lord Arjuna is asking, Kim prabhashet? वो कैसे बोलता है? So what is his reaction? And what is this reaction? Don't complain. Be the mirror. So you see, you watch, but the mirror does not impose anything. It's likes and dislikes. It has no likes and dislikes. So be like that. So pain and sorrow is there. As long as we are in this body, there will be situations that will be painful and that will create joy also. But whether we are getting attached to or identified with that pain or joy, that is our choice. Now, since we are on the subject of the mind, in the scriptures we always see mind being talked about as mana, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. So these are the four components of the mind. Now, when we say four components, sometimes people wonder, what is it? Why four components? So in the body we have components. We have the eyes and the nose. So the eyes are different and the nose is different. They are different structurally and functionally also. They are performing different functions. Eye cannot do the function of the nose and the nose cannot do the function of the eye. That is a limitation imposed there. But when you see the mind has been divided into these four compartments. Man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar. So what is man? And everything is the mind. Yet functionally they are different. So structurally there is no difference between man, buddhi, chitta and ahankar. But functionally there is the difference. So what is man? So man is sankalpa vikalpatmak. You have this thought and you have that thought also. So there is always this kind of tug of war going on. Tuesday gathering is there, should I go? But it is, the timing is changed. So sankalpatmak and vikalpatmak. There is an intention, but there is also something which is holding back or something which is stopping. So this is the mind. Then if we travel or investigate this mind further, then there is buddhi. Buddhi is nishchayatma. You have decided something. There are options available. The mind has thrown up certain options. You look at those options and then you choose one option. Buddhi. Like we know that, that in the morning there is going to be a program. But there are some people who are morning walkers. So they will say, oh, why are you doing it? This is the time for my morning walk. For so many years, I have not missed even on a day. So you tell them, okay, it's a 10-day program. You can miss for 10 days. What is that? I said, no, I cannot do it. People in my neighborhood, they adjust their clock by the time I leave my house. I cannot do this. So what has happened? Nishchayatmak. Okay, that is the function of the buddhi. Okay, a decision is taken that come what may, this morning program may be very good, I will not go. Period. Now for buddhi, the scripture says that buddhi karmanusarini. So buddhi is responsible for many decisions we take in life, but it is also bound by karma. Depending upon what kind of karmic balance we are bringing forward, the buddhi will be there. Then we take it forward from buddhi? Chitta. Chitta is also used in this reference of man, but chitta is not man. Chit is memory bank, smriti. We are all conscious souls having so many lifetimes, and in this lifetime we have spent so much of time, we have had so many experiences. The impressions of all those experiences are placed in the chitta. So it is a memory bank. Now this memory bank is always working most unobtrusively on how we behave. It is determining our reactions. And it is very much like data in the computer. When the data, we go on putting data on the computer or on our mobiles, the weight of the computer or the mobile does not go up because we are putting in more data. The weight remains the same. But we are in the habit of putting in data. We are having it in the habit of collecting experiences and storing them. So what happens? When there is too much of data, the computer becomes slow. It stops working. We have put in so much data, the computer weight remains the same, but its functionality gets affected. In the same way, all the memories that we have preserved, we always choose to live in the past. We always try to discuss the past and bring it up and keep it there. Keep it energized by giving our thoughts, by remembering those things, we keep the past energized, and then we come into the hold of the past. The भूतकाल जो है वो भूत बनकर हमारे ऊपर बैठ जाता है. So what to do? Now again, coming back to the analogy of the computer, in the computer there is excess data and hardly any memory is left. What do we do? So we delete files. Now it's a very interesting thing that when we delete the files, where do the files go? They don't go anywhere. That is why even when we have after we have deleted files, if there is a technical expert, he can retrieve all the deleted files. So the deleted files don't go anywhere, but they are deleted because if we go to the computer and see, more memory has been created, more space has been created in the hard disk, and we can put in more files. So what happens to those files which have been deleted? They are put into a zone which is not active. So this is what we need to do. Memory is there, chitta is there. But we have to develop that facility within ourselves that that memory bank is deleted or it becomes inactive. And when that memory bank becomes inactive, then there is a possibility of inner growth. So how do we do it? By becoming more vigilant. When something comes up, when reaction comes up, we analyze where is this reaction coming from? And we unclutch. We let that memory go. We just take a pause where that memory goes. So the mind is purified of these memories. They are there, but they are put into that inactive space where they don't have the capacity to really govern as to how we think and what we think, what we do. We are out of the clutches of the mind. So there is one more thing that I would like to discuss. Any for any thought to arise and carry it being carried forward, we need a point of reference. Either it is memory. Then the fourth part remained. So we saw what is man, what is buddhi, what is chitta, and the fourth one is ahankar. Now ahankar is loosely defined as ego, the sense of our own being. But actually, if you look at it in a very spiritual sense, ahankar is the power or the force that is keeping this body alive. This body is made up of these five panchamahabhutas, five elements, and it is the sense of our own being, ahankara, that is keeping this body in place and keeping it alive. So if that sense of binding, that binding force is gone, then the body will disintegrate. It will no longer be there. So just by freeing the mind from the sankalpa vikalp situation, from being guided by buddhi, buddhi of course is useful. If you can use it for higher purposes, it is a great aid. But if the buddhi is only guided by past karmas, then it will be entanglement. And then chitta, the memory of all that we have experienced through so many lifetimes, if we can just delete that, we can unclutch that, we just let it go, then only ahankar comes, and ahankar can also be released when the time comes. So this is what I wanted to discuss today. So in the mind, anything that comes up would have a reference. If you go by a river, mountain river, the river is coming down in full flow, the water is coming down in full flow, and then suddenly a huge rock falls and it lodges itself in the middle of the river. Now this water in full flow is coming, it has to bypass the rock, but when it hits the rock, a good amount of water starts flowing back, and you can see this white foam being generated there. So in this whole process, what is happening is that there is a free flow that the river has before the rock. It has a free flow after the rock. But when it touches the rock, then there is disturbance. So we can decide the rock is like a reference point. So if we examine our mind and we see how the thought flow is there or how the flow of energy is there, we will see that it is only a reference point that creates some undulation in the mind. And if there is no reference point, then absolutely nothing. So what we can do is, we can just identify with one of our roles. You can close your eyes and just think of whatever you want to think of yourself in the now. Maybe a wife, a husband, a teacher. Teachers are quite bothered about how their students are doing. Or anything, a father, a son, a neighbor, any role that you play, that you identify with this body as that role in this moment. So by adopting a role, you give yourself a reference point. and see what kind of thoughts are generated when you have a reference point. These thoughts will be concerning the role. These will involve people with whom you are associated in that role. And now just change the reference point. Think of another role. Like I think, that I'm one of the persons behind Tuesday gatherings. And the moment I think of that, the thought comes, how do we make it more effective? How do we reach out to more people? How to devise a mechanism that people are free to give their feedback more easily. So many thoughts come up. One reference point. Now change the reference point again and see what thoughts are coming. And now you just contemplate this body you identify with as yourself is the same in all reference points. It was the same, it is the same, and it will continue to be the same. Changing the reference point is identifying with becoming a mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a teacher, a neighbor, whatever. And now just drop all reference points. You have nowhere to go. You have nothing to do. You are. Gently become aware of the place and time and surroundings wherever you are. And when you are ready, you can gently open your eyes. Meditation is not something to be done. It is just about developing a higher understanding and getting established from becoming into being, just withdrawing all reference points which make the mind run. So thank you everyone. If anyone wants to give a feedback or ask a question or share something, you are most welcome. Otherwise, we'll close with the Shanti part. I think I have to change the settings. Yes. Now, anybody wants to unmute, they can unmute themselves. Vatsala ji, boliye.
This was a wonderful session because I am speaking for myself. At the stage at which I am, I needed to hear all this. And there was such a sense of comfort. I feel your sessions on scripture is of a next level altogether. I do really wish you will take some chapters on the Gita.
अभी आपका वो नारद भक्ति सूत्रों पर बाकी है ना. I think I have.
That is my perennial wish. But then maybe a few important chapters of the Gita, at least on Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga.
Actually, my thought has been that I just want to do the first do the Kathopanishad because it is my favorite.
Yes.
And let us see, Vatsala, we'll see.
So the Gita is not only knowledge; it gives us the skills and tools to on a daily basis.
Yes.
Whereas for people who are very, it is like management. Those who are good managers go to the management course; they don't need it. And those who are not good people, management course doesn't do anything to them. So it is some kind of knowledge for people who are already enlightened. Knowledge is superfluous thing. It's like icing on the cake. But for people like me who are making baby steps, we need these daily inputs.
We'll see what can be done.
I found today's session very engrossing, very absorbing. I think the masters were there, perhaps.
I was wondering, my only thought was that sometimes is it too terse or maybe dry? That was.
No, not at all. Not at all. And my mind didn't wander at all.
Okay. Thank you.
The whole session was like manna from heaven for me.
Thank you. No, it's a learning for me also because teaching is learning. We all learn. हाँ वीना जी आप कुछ बोले.
बहुत अच्छा लगा आपका ये टॉक. आपने जो बताया उसमें एक दो पॉइंट मेरे दिमाग में आया, मन में आ रही है, वो मैं आपके सामने रखना चाहता हूँ. पहली चीज आपने बताई डिटैचमेंट के लिए, जैसे कि आपने एक एग्जांपल दिया स्नेक्स एंड रैट्स का. You cannot side with the rats and you cannot side with the snakes also. You will have to be just away from that. It means you are just having I must say a helicopter view. neither this side nor that side. And nothing is generating any bhava inside. When a snake is eating the rat, or rat is developing much more. So that means it should be a sakshi bhav. You are just a witness. You just see the things. Like mirror is just witnessing. It is not giving any thought. So if that situation comes, are you becoming emotionless? Now, if that is so, whether the Sita was taken away, kidnapped by Ravan, and Ram should say, you know, is a
Very,
simple
very,
thing.
very
Let me
good.
watch.
Very good.
Let us watch.
I will answer
So,
that.
so the bhava is also there.
It is not about becoming emotionless. It is not about becoming inactive. It is about developing steady wisdom. You see, the Lord gave Arjuna all the kinds of knowledge. Then he finally said, "You are born as a Kshatriya, you are here in the battlefield, you better fight." So, one point which I really wanted to dwell upon was that give your 100% to whatever you are doing. So, giving 100% means that you rise above your own mental constructs. Becoming a witness is fine. But if a person is placed in the battlefield, he has to fight. So the business of life and it is only through our actions that we will be able to finish off our karma. So it is about developing steady wisdom and doing 100% whatever we do. But
Without emotion.
with this understanding that it is a game. The rats have gone up, the snakes have to come, and the snakes will go away, the rats will come. That's it. See, it is like this, in Gita or whatever we say, that dharma was established. It is said that it is the dharma yuddha, you go and fight. So if it was really a dharma yuddha and due to that fight dharma was established, then why did it have to happen that after some time or maybe centuries later, the remainder or those people who remained after Mahabharata, they became so arrogant that they had a fight amongst themselves and they just killed one another with the help of fists. So it is like it's a game. It will go. So develop that attitude where you have this complete dispassion. At the same time, you have a sense of wonder. It's all a drama of life. So something will happen today. You have to, play your role. I always give the example of Nasiruddin Shah. Is one of the greatest actors we have. So he can play an emperor with great finesse. But in that film Bazaar, he has played perhaps the role of a pimp also with great finesse. So when it comes to this, he is an emperor, he is a very credible emperor, and he is a very credible pimp. So that is what we need to do. It's a drama of life. We have to play those roles. So we do it 100%, that's it.
Without being involved.
Without being involved. Because if we are involved, then that will create karma. If you are on the battlefield and you kill another person that I am killing, if you are in a fight with somebody has cheated you and you go with all vengeance and take it out on him, then that is karma.
The second point, which you have said, man, buddhi, chit, ahankar. There are
Yes.
4 types. Now, where is the desire? Iksha kahan hai? Because desire is the main thing which drives. बुद्धि कहती है कि ये करो, लेकिन इच्छा कहती है नहीं ये नहीं है
संकल्प
करो।
विकल्प में है। देखिए, एक तो ऐसा कि वो लड़की उसको दिख गई, प्रोजेक्शन हो गया, तो वो मन का है, लेकिन उसमें बुद्धि का ये आ गया कि बुद्धि ने उसको समझाया कि देखो भगवान ने तुम्हारी बात सुन ली, तभी ये लड़की आ गई। तो ये बुद्धि का काम हो गया।
इसके मतलब मन और बुद्धि के बीच में इच्छा भी घुसी हुई है।
वो सब, हाँ, सब इंटरट्वाइंड है। इच्छा कहाँ से आ रही है? हमारे संस्कार हैं चित्त से। कि
चित्त से आ रहे हैं।
हाँ, चित्त से आ रहा है कि इन सम लाइफ टाइम मे बी इफ यू हैव नॉट बीन गिवन गुड फूड, so there was
ये
always a craving for food, so in this lifetime that person will go out all out to have food somebody has not had.
desire will create I mean a type of vritti inside the one.
Yes, that is there, that is, हाँ, so
So
it
that
is
चित्त वृत्ति जो हम कहते हैं ना,
चित्त
ये
वृत्ति। हाँ, तो चित्त वृत्ति,
तो ये
हाँ, ये
वृत्ति
जो
वही है जब when
चित्त
desire
वृत्ति में,
comes.
हाँ, कि आप जो कॉन्शियस हैं, when you are in the conscious field, it is very easy to control yourself because you are conscious, more conscious. But you don't have any control over what is lying in the subconscious mind.
Correct.
The iceberg has 9/10 which is lying beneath the surface,
Down below.
down below. So that is, it is coming from there. So that is why unclutch. Be intelligent, recognize that, okay, this is coming, maybe it is something which is hidden. I will let it go. That is why the pause is very important. We take a pause.
Generally बाबू ऐसा होता है कि there is a desire, so we want whatever is liking to us, वो मैं अपने चारों तरफ एक संसार बना लेता हूँ. We
That
create
is also good in the sense,
world around us,
हाँ,
और जो हमको पसंद नहीं है वो बाहर है.
वो बाहर है,
So which is nearer to the center is our liking, which is outside is our unliking.
So that is where the evolutionary journey of the soul comes into picture. When the soul has come, Lord has come in the form of an individual soul. So when the moment that Shiva becomes Jiva, the sense of incompleteness happens. Because Jiva finds himself confined. So under that confinement, there is a search for completeness. So when primary needs are fulfilled, then a person wants a partner, sex, proliferation, other things. Then the person wants education, prestige. So that is how one keeps searching for completion. All this is somebody wants to become a prime minister of a country. Why? Because he feels he will become more complete. It's a different matter that only after he has become prime minister he says, oh my God, I can't sleep.
That's good.
So then when that understanding arises, then that turning within happens. So we are here in this program, so we have gone through all this drama.
Thank you, Babu. Thank you so much. Very, very, very nice
Thank
talk,
you.
and it was very, very involving.
थैंक यू उमा जी, आपने लिखा है मैसेज में. वंडरफुल, लवली सेशन. थैंक यू धनंजय.
Mr. Srivasa's questions were wonderful. Very, very real. You
Thank you, madam.
articulated the
Thank you.
questions
Thank
which
you.
all of us have. Very nice questions. Very meaningful questions, both of them.
So we'll do the Shanti part and then we close. सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनो, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ